because we've thought about like whether or not
you'll say no to certain things.
Yeah. Well, like if somebody if Manscaped came to us and was like, hey, would you like to, we'll sponsor the podcast, whether or not I would say no to it because we've got a Patreon base.
Yeah.
As
a Patreon subscriber, would you feel hurt
if we told
you to use code Monomaniacs at manscaped.com?
I would feel more entertained than offended.
Okay,
that's good.
As long as it's entertaining content, right?
Yeah.
As long as we present it in a funny way.
Point.
Yeah,
that's why you would
go.
be a Patreon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've thought about like by listening to certain podcasts and stuff, decided which ones I would say no or yes to. Like, no way in hell you're getting me to do a Blue Chew ad. Not happening in a million freaking years. I know that our demographic is technically the Blue Chew demographic, but no. Refuse. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is because you're listening to a lot of podcasts that are the Blue Chew demographic.
That's
so you're getting
Does that
exposed
make
to
me the Blue Chew demographic?
I've become what I hate.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Sadly,
Yeah, 100%. 100%. The algorithm. That's got me.
Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
Which hasn't that like been blown up as some sort of scam or something? Like they've been.
I don't know what Reddit's you're on.
Yeah. Man, everything's a scam nowadays, which is just a terrible flat statement that means absolutely nothing. But there you go.
But you can stand by it.
I can stand by it because I need no supporting evidence when I say that. Everything is a scam nowadays. Goodness. No, but yeah. Rip. Guys, today we got freaking Boomer on the podcast, dude. Welcome, dude. Having a good time
with some ink, dude. I didn't know you were inked up.
Yeah, but this boy's inked.
Yeah, dude. How did this happen? When did this happen?
I'm loving these. I'm loving this ink. What do we got here?
Well, I started out doing only things that I thought were the most meaningful and interesting.
Which is how everybody.
That's how everybody starts out. And then I read a rule on like Pinterest, probably.
Yeah.
Where I was collating all the interesting tattoo ideas that I had. That if you like a tattoo for a year and you still like it after the year, you can get it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't bother because it's going to be on you forever.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I started out doing. And then I found a good artist who was just so good.
Yeah.
That you were like, whatever you want to put on my body, I'll take it.
Pretty much. Yeah. We started out in the sleeve. We started out at the top, and it was just something that he had. And then progressively, as we went on, I told him less and less.
Yep.
And I liked it more
and
and more. So,
that's what I've always heard the trick is, because I have a lot of friends who, I'm not tatted myself, but I have a lot of friends who are really into it.
Yeah.
And they're like, it gets to a certain point where, like if you go to a random place and it's your only tattoo ever and you're like, my friend drew this for me, could you please put it on my body? Then, fine. But once you make it consistently, it's like, it's more about the guy. It's more about the artist, the guy or the gal who's really doing the work. That's what you want to be focusing on.
Yeah.
So.
And plus, you probably don't want to have the huge barrier of constantly having to believe that everything is like the most meaningful thing possible.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe it's better to go with the flow in this instance. I don't know. Yeah.
But also, you get to hand over your art, canvas to somebody who's put in their 50,000 hours.
Yeah.
Right. And as meaningful as whatever it is, it's not going to be as beautiful as something that someone just made up.
Yeah.
After,
Knowing
2 a.m. having the artist brain ready to flow.
Exactly.
You're just not going to match that.
Yeah.
So, would you say that your body is now worth more, right? Just because an artist has put its art on it?
Technically speaking, yes.
Yes. It's true.
There
is more material on your body.
There are guys who do collect that stuff. You don't know this?
No,
there's
I
this
have no idea
doctor
what you're
in
talking about
Japan
here.
who's like famous for this, but he like pays Yakuza to give him their skin when he dies.
When they die?
Yeah. So, when they die. So he has just like barrels and barrels of like embalmed skin.
Barrels? We're talking barrels?
Yeah, they're like it's like stored in like
right?
like formaldehyde barrels and stuff, and they'll like pull it out and be like, yeah, check this out, it's a tiger, So I mean, you could. You can't get buried in a Jewish cemetery, but you can sell your skin. It's an option
to
and
a
also
Japanese
life
man.
expectancy on those guys is not huge.
True.
So it
It's
means
true.
that you'll reap the rewards pretty quickly after.
Yes. I don't know if I've said this fact before on the show, but they always leave their back of their neck open. Because if you ink yourself up as much as they do, which is every part that can't be hidden by a suit or can be hidden by a suit, you just like don't sweat properly. Like there's nowhere for your sweat to go. So, although I feel like that's a big problem, especially because I see that you've got filled in bands.
Yeah.
Or they look like chevrons, at least from what we can see.
Sort of. Yeah.
Yeah, and they look great. But
I like them.
I've always found the guy who just has like a filled in arm I mean, it feels schizo to me. It's terrifying.
It is a little schizo, and it's
Yeah.
also I don't know how much you've actually thought about the tattoo process.
Yeah.
But the filled in black is also not even. So it looks worse than having a thing.
Yeah.
Because the closer you look at it, the more you find that like one patch of skin took the ink really well and one patch of skin didn't, and it's just a slightly different shade of black. See,
And you have to look at that for your entire life.
you have to look at that. The only reason that it's valuable to do that is if there's something worse underneath.
Yes, exactly. It's for the hate symbols and for
Yeah,
the the Invader Zim tattoo.
Yeah.
It's for those equally destructive things.
Exactly.
Which way, Western?
Yeah, I feel like but most of the guys are like, yeah, I was in a hardcore band for like 3 years. I played guitar in a post-hardcore band, and it's like, okay, well, now you're just for the rest of your life just got a big black box on you because you can't like laser that off.
Yeah.
You can. It's just a lot.
I mean, it also takes way longer.
Yeah.
Because the lasering process takes years.
Yeah.
People don't tell you that part. Like, it's not a 1 or 2 treatment. It's 1 treatment every month for a long time.
And then it has to heal over constantly.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah.
You're just giving yourself low-grade burns constantly.
I mean, they say low-grade burns, but you ever watch the close-up of those lasers?
It's rough. It's rough.
It is
There
not.
is no hair left.
It doesn't feel like a low-grade burn on the YouTube video.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you can see it spark as it goes, which is just frustrating. Fun fact about tattoos: apparently, according to cannibals, the worst tasting flesh.
Yes, I
tattooed
have heard
flesh.
this.
Yeah.
So if nothing else, I'm protected
Yes,
from that.
Yes.
exactly. Yeah, if you were in a dark alley and a man was to decide whether or not you were his target, he would pass you by.
Yeah. As long as I'm wearing short sleeves.
exactly. unless he
Yeah.
hits you over the head with like a rock, and he's like, "Crap! Oh man!
I'm gonna waste my kill of the month on this guy. Jeez, and the cops are one step closer.
Seems like he only kills guys without tattoos. I think we're getting close to this one.
Wait, now we don't know. This guy had a tattoo.
Yep, there we go.
Our profile's off. There you go. You could at least make it harder for a cannibal to be detected, and that could be your.
It's
your
true,
legacy.
but part of my problem is that I also hang out with a lot of folks who don't have tattoos.
Yeah.
I'm not hanging around in the biker gang, dark alley,
Yeah.
greasy
yeah.
bar. I'm hanging out with the Catholic kids on 11 o'clock on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And they don't tend to be tatted up.
That is correct.
Yeah,
That's true. Outside of New York City, I think the Catholics now are kind of like tatted up in New York City, from what I've heard from the street reports.
Yeah.
But
Cool. I didn't know they made street reports for that. But that's good to know.
There is a place for you, Boomer.
yeah, gossip columns and Substacks. That's mostly where you hear about that
you
sort of
find that
thing.
information.
Yeah.
Guys, this show's actually about something. Did you hear this? Have you heard about it? Yeah, this was
People are telling me.
people are talking about the fact that the show's actually about something, which I didn't know. So it's much as a surprise to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
Did you know?
yeah. Well, this is going to
I've
be
been keeping
awkward.
it a secret,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. This is a Patreon exclusive thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Show's about something. What we do is bring somebody on, and they talk about what they're into right now, right? What their interest is at the moment. Not something that they've had a lifelong love of, hopefully, or not. You know, the rules are very nebulous
It's
for the
very
show. The more
nebulous.
every time I try to introduce it, the more I find
Come up with
examples,
exceptions.
of people in the past that is not exactly what we've been talking about. But something you're interested in right now, your monomaniacal obsession, as it were. And so, Boomer, what is your monomaniacal obsession of the week?
Well, first off, I just wanted to say, long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh, that's actually you're the first one to make that joke. I'm excited.
Yeah, but the reason I want to say that is because there's context to this monomaniacal obsession.
Okay.
You guys have been talking about lots and lots of weird and stupid stuff for a whole minute, and one of the things was Excel spreadsheet competitions.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I want to say that I think I found a competition stupider.
Ooh. Okay.
So-
Something to bring to the table.
Okay.
All right. All right.
Now, go ahead.
I present to you Car Jitsu.
Wait, I think I've heard about this, but go ahead. Go ahead.
If you're a regular Moist Critical viewer, you probably have heard of this.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
I'm not a regular viewer, but I think I may have heard of it. Go ahead, though.
I am
Describe it.
not, but from some form of the YouTube algorithm, I found that there's the sweaty, competitive, and strange competition of jujitsu in the form and the platform, if you will, of the a car.
Okay. So
Usually a Kia Soul.
Oh, okay. Okay. So is
Yes.
it two jiu-jitsu practitioners in a single car, or is it two cars driven by different jiu-jitsu practitioners fighting one another?
Both of those sound stupid, and one of them is right.
Yeah.
They each sit in the front seat of the car.
Oh, this is actually way different than I thought.
This is so
Okay, so they
already.
sit.
Yeah.
Each practitioner sits in the front seat of the car.
Yeah.
It's a Kia Soul, so you can imagine how small the distance is from the.
I mean, this
seat.
car was invented for giant hamsters, not for
Yeah.
people.
Exactly correct. And they buckle themselves in.
Yeah.
One sitting in the driver's seat, one sitting in the passenger seat. The bell begins. They each have to unbuckle themselves and choke the other person out. Because the only way you can win is through submission.
Okay.
Points only count in like very specific circumstances
Yeah, I'd
in
imagine.
the terms of a season. So like I don't know how familiar y'all are with like
So
jujitsu
there's league
point
play.
systems.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I am
Yeah.
familiar vaguely with jiu-jitsu point systems,
Yeah.
but what are the additions or the amendments to that system?
So the point systems are pretty similar.
Yeah.
There are some positions that you just can't reach on account of it being a car.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for
The
instance-
wrinkle in this tapestry we have put together.
So for instance, if someone were to be laying out on the ground and you were to like come at them on top and from behind,
Yeah.
that could be awarded a point in some jujitsu formats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But since that position never occurs in Car Jitsu,
Because you can't even be. There's no flat.
Actually, just let me be the first one. You know.
Yeah.
The reason they haven't, it hasn't happened yet, is because I haven't been in that car.
Yeah. It's because you have the core strength. You have to plank hard enough
Yeah.
over the armrest.
Yes, there you go.
Be short enough.
Yeah, you got to make it flat. But,
that's exactly right.
Yeah. So what are the point awarding positions?
There's like a point for the knee in the belly. There's a point
Yeah.
for like a mount where you're sitting on top of them. There's a point for some other like basic holds.
Yeah.
But the points hardly matter. They only matter really in a championship context
Yeah.
where you have to like have these two fighters who are tied in the competition and
Yeah.
one of them happens
Happens to have more
to
points.
knee a guy in the chest more often than the
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
But otherwise it's by submission. Anything goes. So
Because jiu-jitsu isn't traditionally a striking
yeah,
combat, but is there a lot of striking in this circumstance?
it's worse. Cars have seatbelts.
Okay, because I was wondering. Because first off, I thought with the rule of you have to start buckled, I thought stupid rule. That makes no sense to me. But now it's all coming together. Right?
That's right.
You gotta have that sort of draw situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Because you think of it first as a quick draw situation.
Yeah.
But the most insightful thing I've seen so far is someone who realized that if they held someone else's buckle down while they unbuckled themselves,
Yeah.
they would in fact have a lot of advantage.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'd
So
lock
there's-
them in. Yeah.
Yeah, so the point of the idea is that jiu-jitsu is a sport designed around utilizing your
Opponent. Yeah.
and your weaknesses. The epitome of jiu-jitsu is the Gracie family,
Yeah.
and they are notoriously short, and the father of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is notoriously weak.
Yeah.
Like the whole like mythos story is that he was so weak that he couldn't compete in regular judo
Yeah.
competitions because he would be winded by going upstairs. So
He invented a martial art for
he invented a
guys like
martial
that.
art form for that
Yeah.
that essentially focuses solely on leverage and opportune
Yeah.
movement in the most. It's
So then
yeah.
take that and put it inside of a car. And
Exactly.
Get yourself a winning combination.
So you're
Exactly.
telling me that people are striking in a jiu-jitsu competition, but using what is essentially iron knuckles, brass knuckles, excuse me, of
well,
seatbelts.
what they do is they use the car to strangle each other.
yeah. It's
whoa,
like
okay.
it's like a net, right? That you swing it around and
I
garrote
hadn't
them.
thought about that.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Here's another thing you can do: open the doors. So when someone's pushed up against the door of the car,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can just open it.
And they,
They fall back, and now you have them.
yeah.
Well, so is it a DQ a disqualification, not Dairy Queen. Just want to clarify. If you were to open the door and fall into the ground, right? Is it?
It's a reset.
It's a full reset.
Yeah, you guys just back in.
Yeah.
Okay, so
that's
then
when the ref, who's in the back seat,
Yeah.
gets involved.
Yeah.
Don't make me turn this Kia around.
It is surprisingly formal. Like having a referee seems so stupid. This seems like something that people should be doing without supervision.
Yeah.
Because it's
and with
too
their
stupid
shirts
for
off.
anybody to look.
All right.
Yes.
Very, very importantly, with
Actually,
their shirts off.
Today I watched one of those sports on my phone, the freaking backyard bare knuckles or whatever, where they've just got chain link fences in a circle and two guys who with like drastically different weight classes, no gloves, just beat the crap out
Both
of
of
each
them
other.
from a different part of Ireland.
Yeah, yeah,
Going at it.
different parts of rural Michigan or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Or Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I'm okay. The one thing I'm curious about is it? This sounds dangerous.
Yeah.
Right. So is it?
Yeah.
I'm guessing it doesn't have much respect. Right. Like, well, how would you describe like the participants, the situation, the demeanor of it? Because I have not watched any of this. This is
Okay.
different. I thought when you said like car jujitsu, I thought you were talking about those videos of guys who can like drift really good.
That would be also cool. I would also watch that.
Yeah.
First off, Car Jitsu.
Car jitsu. My bad.
Formal practitioners are so angry.
Yeah, our fan base has actually a weirdly large amount of car jitsu participants.
Yeah.
We're not making
Overlap.
fun of you. We're analyzing you. Right.
Yes,
And when
yes.
we laugh,
are putting
it's-
you under a microscope like an ant,
Yes.
right? And just staring into your soul. More
Yeah,
than anything.
yeah.
Not to light you on fire for science.
Yeah, exactly. For the purpose of preserving knowledge for the future generations, right? Because
Yes.
as we all know, car jitsu will not last another 2 generations. It's too deadly.
Yeah,
Too many participants are dying.
going to die. Yeah. So is it that dangerous though? Are people getting injured? Or
I
I imagine people would be bloody after.
I
Something like that.
noticed a significantly larger percentage of people who had a lot of scrapes or scratches or noticeable bruises than usual. In part because most jujitsu appears to be done on like matted surfaces that are really not soft, but where you can get thrown down and it's not going to break your bones.
especially when it's such a
dissipates.
momentum-based
Yeah.
thing. You need something to sort of soften that momentum. And
Yeah.
car seats, though soft,
Yeah.
they've got angles on them.
Yeah,
They got corners.
It's actually funny. Like a weird aside, real quick. A lot of people when they look at professional wrestling, they assume that the squared circle has a similar flooring to what you would see in jiu-jitsu, but it's literally plywood. It's literally just flat cardboard with a piece of neoprene over the top of it. So probably not as bad though as a car seat. Because I mean,
True.
I've actually fun fact about me. I was not participating in car jitsu. It'd probably be less embarrassing if that was the case, but I was cleaning a car out once. And I
Just as dangerous,
yes,
by the way.
I lost my balance and smacked my tailbone against an armrest. And this was when I was a freshman in high school. Have still not recovered. I still have a sore tailbone. It's like one of those things that refuses to heal, and like tailbones are like this. You know, like you can't like do you can't do sit-ups the same way ever again. Like you can't sit in a certain way.
that's why you haven't been doing sit-ups.
Yeah, exactly.
that's
That's
yeah.
But it's cars are, I wasn't even fighting a dude from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I still have damage from being in a car.
Yeah, that actually does sort of bring up an important question, which is what kind of individual
Yeah.
is a car jitsu person? I was gonna say, what kind of dude is this? Which is kind of
But I imagine it's
assumptive.
I
because
imagine
there's
there are
probably
women and men
leagues. Yeah.
who participate. Yes.
Both, yeah.
Much like slap fighting.
Once I say it, it's going to seem really obvious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Russians.
Yeah. See, that was the thing. Is like I really had to change my perspective because I kept trying to think of them in like a small Soviet era car when they were doing this. Hard boss plays in the background as they fight.
What's happening in Eastern Europe to where they keep inventing this stuff? I mean, slap fight. We talked about slap fighting on I think it was the last Patreon, or it was the last Patreon.
Yeah.
We talked about slap fighting on the last Patreon, and like, I mean, that's insane. And this sounds something very similar, right? Where it's more about the brutality of it. You're watching blood sport more than anything else.
Yes.
Yeah, but just enough of a degree difference, right?
Yeah.
That it's legal.
So
right?
as
quotations.
somebody who's now at least tacitly interested in this, what is your impression of the personalities. Are there personalities? Are there larger than life figures who are participating in this? Are there the winners? Are there the good guys, the heels? Like, what kind of situation is there?
There are, yeah. And there's also guys who are, it's common enough that there's also return champions.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Who have a repertoire to, cultivate and, an appearance to uphold.
Yes.
So there's these fellas who come back and in a sport so stupid and so new, there is actually an advantage to being a guy who's done it before.
Because a vast majority of the people participating saw a side and said, I could do that.
Yeah.
that can't be that hard.
Well, because when you say something like having the foresight to block someone else from picking, from unbuckling or opening the door on somebody, all these things sounds like something that, this is the early days of the sport. Like, oh, well, we're still discovering something like basic strategy like that. Mm-hmm. So are people coming in, though, and mixing up the game?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's because there's no turnover, right? Because there's only been a few, the United States, not as many championships.
Yeah.
But obviously in Russia, they're just doing Russian things.
Yeah.
But because there's people who have this vastly more amount of experience, meaning a championship or two championships, instead of, first time, well, I guess I'm going to see how this goes.
Yeah.
You have folks who are still working out the early game theory, so to speak.
Just a theory.
Yeah.
So my question is, are there strict regulations involving which cars are permitted?
So I was going to ask this next because it's almost like, what, are you going to have bans and picks, like CSGO? Like, are people picking what maps they want to play on, which kind of car?
Because you mentioned more often than not, it's a Kia Soul, and obviously that's on purpose. But what
that's
is
Blood Gulch, that's vanilla.
Yeah, exactly. What is the reasoning behind this?
I don't know, honestly, but it just seems like every car is like that boxy hatchback.
Yeah.
Part of my theory is that it's a car that no one will miss if it's destroyed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the car will be destroyed.
Has anybody put a foot through the windshield and stuff like that?
Yeah. Like it's so common that every time I've watched a match, the windshield has at least 3 large cracks where someone hit it with their heel or used it as leverage.
Yeah. Good thing that's safety glass because I mean, you could
Well,
really cut
also,
yourself up bad.
Safety glass being crunched against people isn't that much better. It's still a car.
Yeah.
And that's the game, baby. It's still a car.
Man, this is a whole other angle I hadn't even really thought about. Are they just ripping cushions off the seats? Are there the plastic cup holders just getting smashed by elbows? Is
Totally.
That? Oh, wow.
Yeah. I haven't seen any airbags.
Yeah.
I think they might have been deactivated.
Good.
Either they were deactivated or there's about to be some really more interesting fights than I thought.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's the thing. That's second season right there.
Yeah, those things can break your nose.
Yeah. Well, and what's worse, when they break your nose and you start bleeding, the match doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Nobody is submitted yet.
Now you just can't breathe through your nose. But that's one of the things that, to go back to your point about wrestling, is actually an interesting part of a competition based so intensively on grappling, is that the advantage isn't necessarily in the direct understanding of the technique, but that there's a lot of using your environment to your advantage. For instance, in a wrestling format, if you were to have a 200-pound guy knock your head on the plywood, that's going to disorient you and give him an advantage.
Yeah.
Right? Or in a jiu-jitsu area where the mat's kind of soft, if you get flipped over and you get your face pressed in, right? That's not technically a submission, but it's going to really restrict your airflow.
So grabbing someone by the back of the head and putting them into the oh my
right,
God.
Exactly. So you have all these situations where people are having to creatively come up with answers to how to deal with the attack using the environment. Right? So if someone gets on top of you and you can't do anything, what if you just put down the seat?
Yeah.
Right? Now there's a lot more things you can do.
Except for you got one of the electronic ones, you're slowly.
The car's too cheap for that.
Yeah.
Well, so this leads to, when do you think this is going to be on ESPN3? How long? Because I saw Keeping Balloon Off the Ground on ESPN3 just a few months ago. So I mean, it's something that can, it's plausible. It could happen.
Before we move on to that about
Yeah.
the future of the sport, I have one really quick question. How do you decide who's in the driver's seat?
They switch.
They
So there's
switch.
3 rounds.
3 rounds.
So the first
Is
round.
every car used only for one 3-round bout?
No, the whole competition is held in one
One
car.
car, okay.
And usually it's in a barn, so it's in a car that's
Yeah.
a trashy car in a barn in like Kansas. So it's like
Yeah.
98 degrees. Everybody is sweating like nothing.
Yeah.
And so everybody just uses the same car that you just get roll around in everybody else's sweat.
Yeah.
And just deal with that.
Nice. I got
Yeah.
ringworm at Car Jitsu.
Yeah.
Okay. So the future of the sport.
What do you future of the sport?
I mean, based on what he's saying about barns and cars and barn, I think the only way that this would become a real sport, and I'm gonna sorry to step on you here for a second, is I imagine you would have to create Car Jitsu car.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to create a replicatable situation where you can consistently have competitions in this specific car that's very cheap to produce and is only used for Car Jitsu.
Yeah, it would have to be like a manufactured front seat or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, or are there rules involving getting into the back seat? Is that all
So
open?
let me explain the format a little bit.
Yeah.
Because this will answer some of your questions that you're asking.
Yeah.
Since there's 3 rounds
Yeah.
and it ends by submission, which means that someone has to tap, right?
Yeah.
So for all y'all who don't know about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. For each round, there has to
Yeah,
be.
yeah. So
Yeah.
so in regular jiu-jitsu, there's like different chokes or things that are painful or either restrict your breathing or make you
Yeah.
pass out. Instead of killing people or breaking their limbs, the person who's getting, things done to them can tap their opponent, then their opponent stops, the round is over. So in a Car Jitsu format, there's 3 rounds. In the first round, they just each, by the top flip of the coin, one person gets into the driver, one person gets into the passenger seat.
Yeah.
Next round, they switch. If one person won both rounds, there's no third round.
Yeah.
But
But
Yeah,
the
that's good enough.
tiebreaker. Yeah.
But the tiebreaker round is in the back seat.
We're mixing it up for the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay.
Gosh, a lot can happen in a back seat, man.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a lot more room. That's a lot
It's a
more.
lot more room. And also, there's no center console, so there's
Yeah.
nothing to like overcome to reach your opponent. You can
Yeah.
do like your legs become a lot more involved in the process.
Yes, you
there
can
you
push off from the door, do a full
Yeah.
full strength supported by your legs punch,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Beautiful.
Gosh, this is awesome. It's
Also-
barbaric, but
it's
it's
so barbaric.
Yeah.
But it's also like these guys are all like, and the gals too,
yeah.
are just varying levels of skill and a uniform degree of hard-headedness.
Yes. Yeah. Because see, that's the thing about because when we talked about slap fighting on the last Patreon, if you haven't subscribed to the Patreon and want to hear about that, go ahead. But the difference between UFC and slap fighting is that you have like guys who would normally be throwing darts,
Yeah.
doing slap fighting.
Yeah.
Right. Guys who are heavy enough drinkers to where they like don't feel pain anymore.
Mhm.
Right. Like those are the kind of guys who slap fight, and they're not really equipped to understand the strategy or the
Yes.
human body as well, or they don't know how to like not kill their opponent, right? I feel like this isn't where the people who are masters of the craft, I don't think they're doing Car Jitsu.
I mean, maybe some of
Yeah.
the people are blue belts and purple belts, which
Really?
is a lot. That
that is very
depending
high.
on how tough your master is, could be several years of training.
Yeah.
I just think that people who are doing jujitsu are too adventurous to
Yeah.
like form regulation situations. Like
Yeah.
if you're doing taekwondo, like you're like, oh man, we are all about the tradition here. We're all
Yeah.
about this. And if you're doing jujitsu, you're like, well, I wonder if I can, use the back of my sleeve to choke somebody out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bert, come here.
Yeah, I feel like
Get in the car.
there is sort of a level of trashiness that jiu-jitsu kind of has. I feel
Yeah.
like that isn't the case with the more traditional Eastern martial arts. That is funny.
Yeah,
That
I
is
mean,
funny.
Brazilian jiu-jitsu in particular is,
Yeah.
Brazilian.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it's
Brazil.
that in capoeira.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the reason it's a break from tradition because there's
Yeah.
all these judo and martial arts practitioners who were fleeing from the East
Yeah.
and then assimilated into
Brazilian culture.
Brazilian culture. And so
Yeah,
the
yeah.
culture is like the historical tradition is gone
Yeah.
in favor of the most practical sport you can think of.
Yeah, it's sort of like, and that kind of reminds me a little bit of like Krav Maga, where Krav Maga was like, we were trying to develop in the year, in the 20th century, a kill you martial art.
Yeah.
Like we're just developing it right now. It's like sort of the, what's the Esperanto? It's like the Esperanto of fighting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I imagine it doesn't have the same level of austerity
Yeah.
in history.
as Wing Chun.
Speaking of austerity in history,
Yes.
this podcast, a very, very long storied history.
We're coming up on a year, actually.
Yeah.
We're coming up on,
Woohoo.
well, I think actually
It's in
very
March.
soon.
Yeah, March is
Yeah.
the year mark. We're almost episode 50. You know,
Yes.
we're rolling, and we cannot do it without our patrons.
Yes.
I want to thank our patrons right now, each and every one of them. First, I'm going to thank our top tier patrons, that being Joe Papalardo, Sammy Roberts, and Zach and Amber Strehle.
Yes.
Thank you so much for helping the show be what it is. We're going to get a new camera. That's what's in
That's the news.
That's the news. We're going to get a nice
For
new
all of
camera.
you who noticed the bad color grading on the last episode, that was the last straw.
Yeah.
New
After
camera.
that, we thought, no, never again. You know,
Yes.
we're going to do something about it. So new camera's coming on the way. But if you are interested in being a patron, we've got somebody here who's interested in being a patron so much that he is one, right? That's how interested he was. $1 tier, you get the episode a day early. The $5 tier, you get to listen to the special exclusive Patreon episode, right? That's a little wacky. Gets a little wacky sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes it's pretty wacky. At the $10 tier, you can ask us questions, and we will answer them on
the
air.
show.
And I will.
And don't forget the Discord. Boomer
Yes.
is an active member of the Discord, and you
Yeah.
get that for $1 if you so desire.
If you so desire, you get a key to the Discord.
Or
Okay.
if you're Vince, you just get it.
You get in. Well, he was at one
At one
point a
point a
patron.
Discord, yes.
So how did he get in?
Because he said, you guys want one more? And I was like, yeah, we want to play with one more guy. So,
So there you go.
Because sometimes there's games in the Discord.
yes, there's
Yes,
games.
yes,
a lot of
there-
Minecraft,
Yeah,
Left 4
going
Dead,
on.
that sort of thing.
All right. This is from Luke.
Hey.
Luke
All the way
says-
from Haifa. Actually, I think he's back in Pennsylvania. Never mind.
says, ask this guy where the name Boomer comes from. I forget. That's what he said. So
All right.
where is
we all know, but Luke
yeah,
forgot,
yeah. I
so-
mean, Luke forgot, so you might as well
Okay.
tell everybody.
Serious moment.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Should that be a Patreon exclusive?
Ooh, is it special
is
to
it-
you? Yeah, because
Yeah,
if it
It's-
is, then
it's
yes.
special in my heart.
Yeah.
And I think it would be good if some other people paid for that privilege.
Yes,
Okay, there we go.
Okay,
Okay,
there you
I
go.
like
If you
that.
want
I
to
like
know,
that.
if you are
I'll-
just aching to know, to find out why, then you're gonna have to go to the Patreon. for
There's
that.
at least 3 lies involved.
and you will have to discern which is which.
Exactly. Actually,
Yes.
before the Patreon starts, all of us will come up with our own reason. Only one will be the truth, and it'll be up for you to decide.
yeah. And this is, of course, the first Monomaniacs ARG. Right?
Yes.
So there are clues hidden in every episode leading up to now. What is Boomer's real reason?
Every time I've tapped the table, every time we've mentioned watching movies on an airplane.
There's a game.
All right. All right. We got another question from Samuel Roberts, which is cold weather or warm weather superior? Is the question.
I feel like with your outfit right now, you're communicating warm weather.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I am a uniquely white person.
Okay.
In case it doesn't come through on the camera,
Yeah.
I think it does.
I think you're less pale than me
I
right
am
now. So.
exceedingly white.
Yeah.
And one thing that comes along with that is a severe weakness to the sun.
Yes.
I am instantly destroyed by sunshine.
Yeah.
And cold weather, not so much.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say something similar. I mean, I enjoy hot weather as much as the next guy, but I feel like I've lived in Michigan now for I don't know. I mean, I've been around Michigan. I mean, I lived in DC for a couple of years, so I haven't quite, uninterrupted lived here for.
Stop freaking stealing valor over there. Dude.
I know,
Don't
sorry,
even try,
sorry.
man.
But I've been here, especially during the winters, enough for me to be like, this is just how it is at this point. You just kind of get used to it. Although it's been an exceptionally mild winter this year. I mean, this is like the second time it's really snowed. Maybe like the third time, and snow's been melting. Sorry, I was thinking of Frosty. I was thinking of my good friend Frosty.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Yes, who passed recently.
But
yeah.
I have a lot more tolerance for it. I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, and maybe it's the whiteness, but I think part of it's just it's a little easier to bundle up. Like you get to a point where you're, naked and you're still miserable, and you're like, okay, well, there's nothing I can do here.
Yeah, well, that brings me to my reason why I prefer cold weather to warm weather.
Yeah.
Right? Very, very clear reason. I sleep better when it is cold.
Yeah.
Just that simple, right?
Amen.
If it's warm and it's humid, and I don't have a blanket on, maybe because it's so warm and humid, I'm gonna sleep worse. It's gonna be less of a thing. During the summer months, that is what I pine for. I think, I can't wait till it's cold so that I can sleep better, right? I'm not waking up hot all the time. So, though, that's just me. Waking up hot.
There's more people. I know some people out there are agreeing with you.
Yes, yes. So somebody out there. But the person behind that camera right now, I'm going to stare into your soul, you and me. Hey, we're kindred spirits. Just want to let you know.
Yeah.
And guess what? Across all time.
He's not talking to Liebhauser. He's not here today.
No.
There's no man behind the camera.
No. There's just you who's watching right now through the screen. Just want to let you know. Kindred spirit, and regardless of time and space, I'll still love you. Regardless of distance.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So
this is a wrinkle in time, basically.
Just remember that. Just remember that.
True words were never spoken.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's pretty unanimous over here. Then is it just because we're three very, very Midwesterny white guys? Could that be it?
I don't know. We're from the PNW. Where are you from originally?
I'm from a little bit all over, mostly from Tennessee and Colorado.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
So
which
a
is
little
not really
west,
Midwest.
south,
That's
yeah.
I mean, Tennessee is pretty strictly in the Bible Belt.
Yes.
It is not Midwest really, and
Yeah.
then Colorado is
It's Western.
is extremely west.
Yeah.
But depending on where west you are,
Yeah.
like eastern Colorado is pretty much Kansas,
Mhm.
but
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. geographically and culturally.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Huh.
That's
Okay.
why Western,
I don't know why they
Eastern
pay
Wa-
taxes to the Colorado government. They should just, move the line.
That's sort of how Eastern Washington is too. It's just
Yeah.
Idaho.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
Idaho, but it's
just move the line.
yeah.
Just admit it. Everybody, let's
Well,
just.
have you heard of Cascadia?
Wait, is that the California break off that everybody? That
No,
North
it's-
California keeps trying to do.
Yes,
every
it's
10 years?
North California, Western Oregon, and Western Washington, all broken off by the Cascades to form their own state. So it'd be like Seattle, Portland, and what's in Northern California, like Sacramento, or am I totally off there?
I do not know California geography.
Yes.
Straight up, do not care.
Yeah.
California geography.
Oh, I'm going
Yeah.
to I'm going to GDC this year in LA. Hopefully, if everything goes according to plan. So if you're out there, hit me up, dude. Well, grab some drinks and talk about video games. I guess
At
is that what you
GDC.
do? Is that what people do?
I
at GDC?
imagine. Yeah. I imagine
What else is
they
there to say?
misbehave.
Yeah, out there.
Yeah, it's where EA executives misbehave.
Oh,
at
true.
GDC.
That's where particular rooms
Yeah.
modeled after particular sitcom stars happen.
yeah. Blizzard.
Blizzard. Yeah,
The
that was
Activision stuff all happens at GDC. Although GDC sounds like it'd be the kind of situation where you get to like watch like John Carmack or whatever give a really cool speech, and then afterwards just get blasted out of Dave and Buster's.
hell yeah, dude. What else is life for?
I don't
know.
imagine.
Yeah,
I
couldn't
can't
tell you.
imagine.
Yeah. Okay, guys.
I mean, actually, weird fun fact. I read Blood, Sweat, and Pixels,
yes.
and I think Dylan has as well, which is like the book, like one of the first books about the gaming industry, in like the 21st century, and it mentioned specifically that like Blizzard had a Dave and Buster's next door, which I can imagine is just the stupidest thing in the world. Because it was like, yeah, then after they wrapped on Diablo 3, they went to Dave and Buster's next door, and I was like, what? Imagine working.
My
next to a
my
Dave
favorite
and
thing
Buster's.
about that book is how much it, because everybody was this way
Yeah.
back then. How much it just loves Blizzard. Just
Yes.
how much it's talking about how great Blizzard is, how awesome their games are, how great the company is, and all this stuff. And
Yeah.
oof, that
What's
is-
the funniest thing about that
it's
though is
rough
that
now.
Jason Shearer, the guy who wrote that book, is like one of the biggest like bleeding hearts on like Twitter in
Mhm.
gaming,
Yeah.
and just like is like very, I guess like the word, I wouldn't, this is not an accurate word, but like kind of like lib about it all.
Mhm.
And he knew, and he just like denies that he knew, but he knew everything that was going on. He like basically lived and worked at Blizzard for like 4 months at the worst part of it all, and then he was like, "Yeah, no, I have no idea what was going on. I didn't put it in my book because I didn't know." It's like, yeah, sure, Jason,
Okay.
sure,
Yeah.
Jason.
Also, everybody had to not know, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Like that's the point is you can't work now if you know.
Yes,
Everybody has to not know.
Well, that's the funny thing about Hollywood too, with like stuff like this. We're going totally different
Like the
direction.
Weinstein thing.
Yeah, with the Weinstein thing, where it's like, yeah, obviously, so many more people knew than people claim that they knew. But also, it makes you kind of wonder. Whenever somebody says "open secret,"
Mhm.
it always makes me wonder, like, what are the other ones?
What's the secret part of that?
yeah.
Yeah.
Where are the other open secrets that
Yeah.
like nobody has just conveniently decided it's important to reveal yet? And it's It's a real question. The
Don't
gaming
worry.
industry is another
History
indication
is
of that.
moving towards truth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's,
all
it's
history-
teleological.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
all moving towards when everything is revealed and all knowledge is, of course.
The age of
in the
Aquarius is around the corner.
Yeah, we're all waiting for it.
Yeah.
Aquarius, move your ass. That's all I'm saying. Get here faster.
It's
yeah.
the dawning of the age.
Yes. Goodness. All right. Okay. So, pulling back to
Pulling back into the car jitsu.
Yeah,
We're buckled back
I didn't
in.
even think. Do they use manual or automatics? Because that is a huge difference.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
that's-
actually, no. There's usually even manuals. Excuse me. Even automatics have like a
yeah. But
shift stick.
sometimes they've got one that you pull up. Sometimes they've got one that's up all the time.
Yeah.
You're talking
Like-
about like the emergency brake
Yeah,
or
yeah.
about
No,
the
no, no.
manual
Well, no. Like
stick?
sometimes there's
You're
a
doing
stick
you're
that
doing
you.
an emergency brake
Yeah, you did.
motion, I think.
Yeah, you did. For everybody listening on the
I'm
podcast.
hitchhiking. That's
yeah,
what
he's
I'm doing.
hitchhiking.
Yeah. That's my cover story there. No, but yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different apparatuses for this. Sometimes it's on the wheel. Sometimes it's on the console. Right.
Yeah.
It's just a layered cake that just keeps going and going and going, 1 inch at a time. No. Yeah.
Well, so far, I haven't seen any fights that have involved a moving vehicle.
Mm.
Although that does seem like a meta that could be really interesting.
Yes, that's the next step.
Yeah.
You put it in neutral,
Yeah.
and you tow
Roll it down a hill.
Yeah. Oh wow, that'd be interesting.
Mainly, I want to see that because I want to see a guy trying to defend from a choke while simultaneously operating
The
the stick behind his back.
Yeah. There you go.
They just
Beautiful.
put a brick on the.
pedal.
Yeah.
They put a.
If you crash into anything, that's an automatic DQ. It's
Yeah.
a double DQ.
Yeah.
Both trying to drive and fight at the same time.
It's like a prisoner's dilemma where both of them are like, we both have to be driving this thing, but we also have to figure out who's gonna win it. So, goodness, beautiful. No, yeah. So here's the thing though, right? To me, this says that you could literally put jujitsu in anything and it just sort of works out.
Yeah.
Why?
Hot air balloon jiu-jitsu.
Yes, exactly. That was exactly what I was thinking. That was the example. There are no others.
Yeah.
Why cars, right? What is additionally special about the car situation that, people have been attracted to as opposed to putting it in any other small enclosed space, right? What do you think it is?
I think there's this conceit in martial arts that there's this idea that maybe someday someone will attack you,
Yeah.
and that person could be in a dark alley or in your house or in your car.
Yes.
I think that's where the conceit comes from, but
Yeah.
I think it's a really silly excuse to essentially just be goofy with it.
Yeah.
Because
Get a little silly.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
in reality, if someone's coming at you and they're about to hurt you or take your money, first off, run away. Second
Yeah.
off, give them your money.
Yeah.
But the last thing you should do is try to strangle them in your car.
Yeah. This is actually kind of funny because this relates to a very specific trend right now on TikTok. I do not have the app. I do not use it, but it matriculates into Twitter and
Malware.
other places.
Yeah. He was saying that to the FBI, so
Yes.
that if they were coming for him.
No, just actually the CCP.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
true.
the Chinese government.
The Tencent arm of the
Yeah.
Chinese
Yeah,
government.
exactly. First you got League of Legends, and now this. Regardless, it's focused primarily on intruder or like how to defend yourself in a car situation, right? It's like there was this viral thing that went around for a long time where it was like human traffickers will take a zip tie and they'll put it on your door handle to mark your vehicle. So that when you go into your vehicle, they'll know like they may have already slashed your tires. They may just be prepared to kidnap you, right? And so if you see that, run. And then all these people just like bought a ton of zip ties and just started putting them on like every SUV they could find. So like speaking of that thing where we were talking, that joke I made about hitting the reverse on your seat. Like I saw one where this guy did a video where it's like if somebody is in your back seat and puts a rope around your neck when you sit down, and then it's a lady like showing how like she unbuckles and then like does a weird combination of moves and then throws the seat back and then is able to like get out of the car. And then of course the guy tries to replicate it. It's like it's slowly turning back. But there is like a weird preoccupation with car. And I've seen like a lot of different explanations for this. There's like some people who claim it's because, if you live in the suburbs, the only real interaction you have with just another person or like the possibility of meeting someone who you don't want to see is just literally the grocery store parking lot. That's like it. Because it's like work, your house, and a parking lot. Like those are the 3 places where you are, and so conceivably that's like the most likely
What
place.
about in the store itself? Do you
That's
just
an option,
pull
but you're
up?
not going to get like
but that
mugged
isn't
in
the
store.
case anymore because a lot of people, including my family, my family, go to a store and order their groceries in advance and have somebody bring them out.
Yeah.
It's
It's like one less situation, right? Where you could
one less
conceivably have
situation where I have to interact with individuals.
yes,
right.
one less situation where someone could have put a zip tie on your car.
Yeah.
But
Clippers are expensive.
so yeah,
dude.
there's like a weird specific like a weird level of anxiety. And I was watching this video the other day, like a Red Letter Media video, where they were watching this tape of like a guy who was tough on crime, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like talking about how to fight off criminals, and his thing was like, yeah, grocery store parking lot, like they're gonna get you in the grocery store parking lot. And I don't know. I mean, do you think that there's an actual association there, or this is just more? Fantasy?
There's
Yeah.
this like whole like fantasy of protecting yourself against someone who's going to come for you.
Yeah.
And I think it's so wild to watch these guys totally divorced from reality.
Yeah.
Because okay, if a guy comes at you, he will come quickly. You will
Yes.
not notice because the average grown man can cross like 30 feet in a handful of seconds.
Yeah.
Which means that he can go from being out of your vision to on top of you before you can drop your keys and get anything.
Yeah.
Right? So that eliminates so much like real self-defense
Yeah.
fantasy nonsense that you're
Yeah.
going to see on some given video app.
Yeah.
Right? And it just leaves you with like this fantasy of these guys who are convinced that they're tougher and going to overcome this guy who found them from behind and has every advantage.
Have you
right?
seen the paper drill before?
Yeah.
Where you drop a piece of paper, which is like like if you were to have a weapon of any sort, handgun, knife, or etc., it would take you about that long on average for the paper to hit the ground for you to be able to pull it out, and you just have a person stand 30 feet away from you, right? And the paper does not hit the ground by the time they're up, and they're ready to go. So no, I mean, so yeah, the only situation in which, like, you have to be in a self-defense situation in which nobody gets the drop on you, which is a kind of a rare scenario.
Yeah.
Like maybe an active shooter who is not targeting you, or somebody who's robbing somewhere that's not targeting you, right?
Yeah.
Like there was that guy in that, was it like an IHOP or something? There's this video that was going around. It's like kind of this sensational thing now. Like they're trying to find the guy, and it was this whole deal. But there was this dude who was just sitting in an IHOP that was getting robbed, and then he just took out a handgun and just shot the robber in the back of the head and just walked out. And then, like of course there was all the arguing about is this guy a hero, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that's like the only scenario in which you're going to be when you're not the target, when you're not the guy who they're coming out to get. So yeah, no, I mean, but the thing is, I guess the difference would be for like a jiu-jitsu guy or whatnot is that part of his construction of self-defense is the person being on top of him, right? Where it's like, oh yes, I've actually trained this exact scenario, et cetera, and they, that is
And
I
plus,
suppose the
that
difference.
man who probably has a Punisher tattoo would also say that
Yeah,
That's a good guess.
he
Yeah.
is clocking everything at any given time.
Yes.
right? He'd
This
be
is
like,
a-
no,
this is
I
a
know
classic
all
thing.
exits. I assess everybody as a threat. Right, I'm going.
yeah,
Regardless of whether or not that's true, they have made a construction in their head that like they are completely situationally aware at all times. Right, which
Yeah.
is just crazy.
Like pretending to be Jason Bourne.
yes,
right?
exactly.
Yes.
Which is not really an actual form of self-defense. That's just a form of self-conceit.
yes,
Right.
It's
Okay.
true, and paranoia.
Yeah.
Right, because like, look, if a fella comes after you and is like, "I'm gonna take his money," you know what I'm gonna use? My bare hands.
yeah,
And like that, like in a scenario in which that's dangerous, the best retaliation is not to be strangling some fella, but to,
Yeah.
like to be also using fear, like
yeah,
for self-defense. In a self-defense, like someone comes into your house.
We are not experts, by the way.
Yes.
That's correct. I am talking out my ass.
Yes,
this is
yes.
Monomaniacs.
We are talking in Minecraft.
That's right. In Minecraft, when a creeper comes into your house,
yeah.
the best defense is not the firing of a gun, because that is wildly unsafe, especially if you live with a family, right? And there's other people who can be hit, and also because you can be overpowered. The best defense is the sound,
Yeah, of a shotgun.
Yeah.
and that
100%.
pretty much clears out the house.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Right, like that. But the point is that you should never, ever try to shoot somebody who comes into your house because not only is it exceedingly dangerous, but the legal process for that is
that's the number one
unbelievably
thing
awful for
where,
you.
I've mentioned this
It
on the
will
show
never be good for
before,
you.
and Dylan hates the fact that I've mentioned this, but I have taken a CPL course before. And during the course, they have this whole section, and basically the whole course is objective because it assumes that you kind of know basics to firearm safety, that you're not just being flippant about it. It's like, do not ever do this. It's like, if you need this weapon, sure, and if you need to carry it and you think that's better, like, sure, but like, unless you have to, at the very, very most extreme circumstance, have to shoot somebody, do not do it ever, because the legal fees alone will bankrupt you.
Yeah.
Right. Even if you don't have to kill somebody, if
It's
you
over.
wound somebody, it's over. Right.
Look, either way, whether
Yeah.
you survive or not, you will, if you're alive, you will spend the next 10 years of your life
In court.
going in and out of court.
Because everybody and their mom is going to sue you.
Yes.
Right. And the difference actually,
As it should be, honestly.
Yes, yeah. Well, it depends on if if you're in a castle doctrine state, then that's a totally different scenario, right? But yeah, no, it's if you do that, you have to be like, it has to be life or death, because otherwise it's not going to be worth it.
You have to be so sure. But
Yeah.
also, I don't know if most people know this, but in order to plead self-defense, you have to plead guilty to homicide.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah. When they say, the charges brought up against you are first-degree homicide,
Yeah.
you say guilty
Because you have to
by
provide
reason
a
of self
motive.
by
Yeah,
reason
yeah.
of self-defense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Which means that if you fail the self-defense,
You're guilty
you
of
are
homicide.
guilty. You are going to jail forever.
Yeah.
It's over for you.
Yeah.
There's no good solution for this.
Yeah.
So that whole idea that somehow someone is too badass to be dealing with those futures
Yeah.
is too silly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and then the great thing also that
I'm just gonna grab the gun.
yeah.
Yeah, well, there's that guy, the Detroit-based dude who does those videos.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's obviously, I think, a bit at this point. That guy.
Yeah, I mean, he did a
probably.
video with Moist Critical, so
Yeah.
it's a bit. The whole thing is a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. No, what was I going to say? No, but to speak to that point as well, Shad was mentioning that in his class, his teacher said that, whatever you do not put a anime wrap on your gun or
Yes.
a Punisher symbol on your gun, because the first thing
Nothing in Latin.
yeah.
Don't put a sticker on your car that says, shows an AR and says, come and take it or whatever. First off, it's like, please rob my vehicle. It's like, that's what you're saying is, please rob my vehicle. There was a weapon in here and it's expensive. But also, imagine you're in court and imagine you did everything right and it was totally justifiable self-defense. But if somebody said, look, man, this guy's got a Spartan tattoo and his gun has a charm on it. It's like, this guy was waiting for this, and then you're in jail regardless. So
yeah.
I mean, if you're in a situation,
A jury is going to
A jury's gonna be like,
automatically
"Oh,
stop
gosh."
believing that you were doing things for
yes,
the right reasons.
the thin blue line Punisher, that's that's you're going to jail.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah. So yeah, it's
Again,
interesting.
we are not experts.
We're not. I'm not experts, but there are certain things that you should suggest in those scenarios because and then the reason why those cultures can kind of survive and why gun culture can kind of be like that is because it's comparatively insanely rare. That never happens.
Yeah,
right.
never happens.
A gun owner in self-defense situation very rarely shoots somebody, and so because of that, you can just kind of keep this myth going. It's like, yeah, we're basically Marines, just in real life. We're basically Marines, right? And
Did you say Marines, but we're in real life?
yeah, no, sorry.
Yeah, we're Marines in real life. Real life Marines.
As opposed to Space Marines?
Yeah. Sorry, excuse me. I did not mean to disparage Semper Fi, etc. But yeah, so it's funny to me that that's sort of a part. And I guess maybe that's why also bad self-defense advice period can survive. Is because it's comparatively rare. It's a very rare thing. It's very tragic and very intense for people who actually experience those situations, but it's very statistically unlikely, and it's also especially statistically unlikely if you're somebody who's training for it. Right? More often than not, though, the people who do take it very seriously and go out of their way are people who've been victims of abuse, victims of sexual violence, etc. Who feel much safer and better, once when they've been prepared in that way. But for a lot of people who do prepare, it's something that just never happens.
I mean, they're just afraid.
Yeah.
Like everybody else.
Yeah.
No, I mean, usually they're doing it for the right reasons. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that it's an exception to the rule if you're doing it just to be a badass, right?
Yes.
I don't think that's, just based off of common sense, I guess, and personal experience, it doesn't seem to be the person more often who's learning that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know.
Billy Badass over here.
Yeah.
What are we on time? I'm worried we're gonna run over a little too much.
No, we got another about 5 minutes.
Oh, great. Cool.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
We're killing it. Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure because I've got to go to church today.
Dude, we got two,
I'll see you there.
two beautiful guys who got to go to mass. So
Yes.
yeah, we got to be
Yes.
careful here.
Yeah, but we're gonna have time.
Faithful Catholic
We're gonna have
guys.
time for the Patreon as well. So
Yeah,
we're gonna
great.
make sure.
Yeah.
We're gonna make sure.
We'll be all right.
Yeah, but I'm curious to see sort of where Car Jitsu goes because
Yeah.
Be our correspondent. If something if something develops, let us know.
Yeah.
We'll share it.
because
on the pod.
if you told me about slap fighting 4 years ago when slap fighting first started being a thing, and the fact that now Dana White owns it in America and they just had their first broadcast on ESPN, and that's a huge deal, and I saw so many people being like, "What the hell is this?" who watched it. That was basically the same thing, except for instead of a Kia Soul, it was just over a barrel. So it's certainly a possibility. Do you think that our tolerances are sort of changing to where we're a little bit more accepting of that?
I don't know what it is. I think my personal opinion is that the power, more and more power, is being allocated to individuals with a big following.
Yeah.
Like your Moist Criticals, like your Dana Whites, people who have the individual resources to put on a big event like that and market it.
Yeah.
Because previously that was uncommon. And so now someone can just start a slap fighting ring
Yeah.
and get the licensing sold to
Because
ESPN.
because Moist Critical has his own league, right, or whatever.
Well, I don't know if he has his own
Sort
league.
of.
but
No, he did his own
spon-
thing.
He has his own several sports,
Yeah.
esports teams
Yeah.
that he funds out of his own pocket, and that's sort of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But, he's just a guy who's rich on account of people keep giving him money.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Yeah.
Look,
Charlie,
it's
Charlie, I will say I do not in any way. I'm not mad. Dude. Get secure the bag.
Everybody get the bag,
brother.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just get a better room, for God's sake.
Create your room.
Yeah.
Make it look like a set.
He's got those God slap posters up. That's pretty sweet.
That's
Yes,
new.
his comic book, yeah.
That's a new thing.
I saw a video on YouTube, a thumbnail. I did not watch it, but it was like, God Slap is the best indie comic of the last 20 years. And I was like, no, it's not. There's no way it is.
I'm sorry, there's just no way it is. You have not read a lot of them. That is what this says.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it says.
Yeah.
I've kind of, maybe we can talk about this a little bit more on the Patreon, but I was watching this video the other day that was talking about Channel Awesome and
the classic era.
the classic review era of YouTube and all their individual websites and stuff. And they were saying this really built the foundation on which the video essay or et cetera eventually became the primary form of review or content on YouTube, right? As we got higher tolerances for longer videos and then less of a tolerance for gimmicks.
Yeah.
And also the legal stuff all worked itself out eventually to where fair use got a little bit more liberal and a little bit more usable. But at the same time, I was watching it and they were showing all these thumbnails for video essaying is good now. This is cool. And I think there's a problem with it. And I think it's because they're in its desire, and maybe this is the same thing that happens with any sort of editorial journalism, but in their desire to say that something is the best or the most underrated or something that you should be paying attention to, that it results in a lot of sophistry, really powerful sophistry.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe it's making the discourse worse, maybe it's making better, I don't know, but I'm having a hard time with people saying that, making a 4-hour-long video on Earthworm Jim. It's there's something doesn't seem right there.
It just seems like more eloquent clickbait.
Yes.
Yeah.
It kind of is, and then you can tell when there's somebody who's pretending to know what they're talking about, because now that's the form has gotten so popular that it's what we do now is video essays, that people who have no business writing something that's longer than 200 words are writing hour-long videos, and you're watching, you're you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
I was watching a video just the other day that was reviewing every historical Total War game.
Yeah.
It was like 2 hours long or whatever. First off, when it said I reviewed every single game in a series and it's only 2 hours long, automatic. you're not doing enough. You're not doing enough.
Yeah.
I watched 12 hours just on Skyrim on one game. You can't do all of them in 2 hours. But yeah, it was just that, or it's like just for the sake of a lengthy video.
Yeah.
They stitched together a bunch of shorter videos, and it was just not.
They're
like
reading too much into stuff,
Yeah.
or like trying to say stuff is more significant than it actually is. I don't know. It kind of reminds me of that character from Metropolitan, that movie where he's like, I don't read novels. I just read literary criticism because I get the author's opinion and a little bit of the content. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of true. That's sort of what
Yeah.
it's what we're on right now, as they say. It's what we're on.
Before we move on to the Patreon, because we're at that time. Is there anything that you would like to plug before we go on?
Go. I think I have a public Twitter. You could follow that.
Yeah. You do have a public Twitter.
I think I have a public Twitter.
Yeah.
I think I have a public Mastodon of the same name.
I mean, we should talk about Mastodon. I have questions about Mastodon.
I like it.
Yeah.
But I also have a very specific use case for Twitter and Mastodon
Yeah.
that is not the general use. So
Yeah.
it works for me. But
Okay.
Works for you.
We can talk about that a little bit on the Patreon.
Yeah,
but-
we'll
well, check it
use
out.
that
So
for sure.
what's the
Handle.
what's the
Yeah.
handle?
Is it just Boomer?
Magic
Big Boom?
Magic Beamish. And
Ma-
then Mastodon is at Magic Beamish at CSAC, I think. It's the cybersecurity
Oh, okay.
forum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Whatever.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well,
Peace.
biggest plug of all, the Patreon. See you there.
Yeah.
It's true.
Bye.
Only $5 to see.